So here's a subject that for some reason we seem to be dodging on this channel, which I can't figure out why that is. But for some reason, I've never talked about it like directly on this channel. In fact, I think this will be the first time that a video has ever been directly dedicated about it. Let's talk about some Gundam. So my history with Gundam starts like a lot of people here in America, I'll say, because I'm pretty sure this is a true statement. A lot of people, especially around my age, that got into Gundam, got into it because of Toonami. And it was Gundam Wing. Yes, it was Gundam Wing, and if you've heard me on the other channels, if you've heard me talk about things like that on the live stream and whatnot when these questions come up, Gundam Wing is not a show that I am thrilled about. I'm not. I think that it has some of the best Gundam designs ever. In the whole freaking history of the anime, it has some of the best designs ever. In fact, if I'm to compose a top 10 list, this thing, the wing, is magnificent. That is a beautiful, amazing, badass, solid design. It is years since this. We didn't get to start here. Started on Gundam Wing. Now, here's the thing. When we started on Gundam Wing, that's all I knew. It's all I knew. And it blew me away. Absolutely blew me away. It was one of the most amazing things that I had ever witnessed in my entire frickin' life. The animation was incredibly solid. It took itself seriously. There was political intrigue. There were soldiers living soldier lives, and there was a lot of complications, and there was moral implications about things like the mobile dolls. Is it right to let these machines have an AI that allows them to kill people? And yes, it keeps people safe because people are no longer piloting the machines that have to go out and do said war activities, but at the same time, that's a dangerous road to walk down because now we're giving machines the rights and abilities to kill people. And now we're getting into some questionable stuff. And there were people that were mad about this, and there were people that saw the goodness of this, and there was political intrigue behind all of it, and then it was crazy. And then there was the uprising of the colonies, and it was well done for the first thing I had seen. And then I was surprised by this guy that you'd known the entire thing was known as Zex Marquise, and all of a sudden he wasn't Zex anymore. He was actually a dude named Miliardo Peacecraft. And I was like, whoa. So he's from like a royal family and then blah, 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 and he went into hiding. Like, it's crazy how much I loved Gundam Wing. I loved it. But then Toonami did me a solid later on. And they released the original run of Gundam. And when they released the original run of Gundam, that was it. When I discovered the UC, the Universal Century, that was it. This is where Gundam lives. Period. 100%. Holy motherfucking shit. This was good. It was amazing. It was heavy character focus. A lot of these characters, like, here's a problem that I have with Gundam Wing. After seeing the Universal Century original Mobile Suit Gundam, what drove me away from Gundam Wing is not enough death. That sounds awful. I get it. It sounds bad. But in a Gundam series, Gundam is about war. And it is about not pulling punches. It is a war drama that shows us the evils and horrors of war. And the friends that you go with into war don't come home with you. They do not always come home with you. In Gundam Wing, all 5 of those pilots, they're still alive. Something about that bugged me. Not a single Gundam pilot died. Then, I go over to Mobile Suit Gundam, and it seemed like every other character that I discovered was ripped away from me. I started liking Ryu, dead. I liked Char Aznable. He does survive. But it turns out that he's not Char Aznable, and his checkered past is that he killed to become Char Aznable. And you start to like Char's friend, Garma Zabi, dead. Cassilia, I'm not saying that I liked Cassilia, but Cassilia is a mainstay character, and like bad guys of shows stick around. Like, I'm going to be honest, I can't 100% remember, but I seem to feel like, if I remember right, a lot of the bad guys of Wing did not die. They were like staple bad guys that always got away, or for some reason the fight didn't finish to its... It took a long time. If the bad guys died, it happened so late, I don't even remember it anymore. I would have to rewatch the show, because I seem to remember the girl that kept switching to the glasses and whatnot. I don't remember her dying. And the Peacecraft dude, who then turns out, I think he's not actually a Peacecraft either, or something like that. I can't remember. Trey's Kushranada. I don't remember him dying. Like, I mean, he probably did, okay? He probably did. But it probably happens way late in, like, episode 45, something like that. Like, the bad guys were dropping off. Like, they introduced the Black Tri-Stars. Dead. The good guys keep dying. And there's this drama that follows the ideas through to conclusion in the original Gundam, that this is a story about war. They introduce Slegger. He is an almost instantly likable character. He's rough around the edges, but he's the kind of guy you want in the situation that you're in. You would deal with him to know that he would give his life to protect that crew, because that's what he has chosen to do. And you know what? He does that. He's dead. He doesn't make it through the series. This happens over and over and over again in Gundam. And it made me really appreciate the UC, because the characters were not promises. There were mainstay powerhouse characters like Amuro Ray who get to go from series to series. But in the term that they go series to series, they link people up with Amuro, and you would think that that made them like main characters that aren't going anywhere, but that's not a guarantee. See, now later, like in Gundam Wing, Zex Marquise has this girlfriend kind of character, and they link her with him, and that basically makes her a mainstay character, and she's still alive all the way through the series and into the movie. Now, other characters make it, like Sayla and whatnot, but I'm just trying to give you this idea that what blew me away was that nobody was a promise in Gundam. And that's what started my love for Gundam, was that nobody was promised. It was a war, and it wasn't pulling punches, and while it was like there were exciting Gundam battles and things like that, the actual focus was on how war affected people. How it changed us, how it demoralized us, how it damaged us as a people. And how the people you go in with are not promised. That said something terrifying and important when I watched Gundam. So my history is with Toonami. I saw Gundam Wing, then later I saw Gundam. And from Gundam, I branched out on my own. This is when I started going to places like Best Buy, and back then, oh yes, Best Buy. I know anybody that's heard my comments on Best Buy, yes. But there was a time when I used to go to Best Buy, and they used to have this huge, literal full aisle anime section. It was like a huge explosion of anime back in the 90s. If you were growing up like when me and Shane did, we used to make trips every paycheck just out to Best Buy to look at their full aisle of anime. And I was so intrigued. That's where I bought the Stardust Memory. That one blew me away when I watched the Stardust Memory, and I ended up getting into characters like Lieutenant Burning, who was an older guy who was rare. You don't see guys like Rumble Rawl and Lieutenant Burning that are older guys that are cool and good in anime, that are guys that you could look up to, that you want to be. Because let's be honest, we all start to get older. Look at this. Look at this friggin' white goatee. I'm 36. And at 36 years old, I start to realize that a lot of anime, and not just anime, but shows in general, like to favor the young people because it's a young game. That's how you get people to keep watching your show, is you intrigue them, either by sex appeal or by this guy's cool, and wouldn't you like to be this guy, and he's young, and there's an identification with the younger characters that you don't get with the older characters that get left behind. But in Gundam, older people are just people, and they can serve very legitimate purposes and be very good characters that you can look up to and you can appreciate. Rumble Rawl is easily one of my top 5 characters in all of the UC. Easily, without question. And he's an older character. And Lieutenant Burning is also one of my more appreciated characters that I saw from Stardust Memory that I ended up liking a lot, and he's an older character. I love those aspects about Gundam because it makes characters important. And it doesn't make them as cliche as other animes that I watch, like in Shonen, where there's always the funny, perverted old guy. Gets a little old. Every old guy is like evil or perverted or comedy or some kind of incompetence, but not in Gundam. In Gundam, the older characters can be wise. They can also be shitty. They can be shitty. Watch the MSO8 team, another one I picked up back when I was running around there at Best Buy. I picked it up there. Then later on, Adult Swim started showing it, and that was really cool, and I watched the whole thing again. But strangely enough, I got a lot of shit from Best Buy. And I started to realize that if I could track down the animes with UC, I tended to like them a lot more. And then I made mistakes because I was buying at random. I would buy certain things like Gundam Seed Destiny. And obviously, when I started watching it, I felt like I was left out of something. Like, I couldn't figure out what the fuck was going on. Well, the reason was because Gundam Seed is before Gundam Destiny, and I didn't know that. And it's pretty important because it uses a lot of the same characters and introduces plot points that were set in stone back with that anime, and I didn't know, so I don't know. So it was like strangely boring, and I actually ended up getting rid of that series only to regret it later when I realized what it was that made the series hard for me to follow. Had I seen it from the beginning, had I seen it from Seed, it probably would have changed my entire opinion. So that was a talk. A quick little exciting dive into how Gundam got started for me and how I kind of bled into it and did it for myself at that later point. Now, the next time we talk Gundam, we're going to talk about Gunpla. We're going to talk specifically about high-grade Gunpla. My camera's backwards. I thought this was this finger. Because I am going to start reviewing every single one of my Gundams. One by one, as I make them, as they're finished. And I'm going to try to give some people an idea that you don't need to be ahead of the curve to get into Gunpla. But we'll talk about that when I come back for that video. Later on.
I have spoken. Take what you will from it.